Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Let's talk a little bit about some of the side effects of the pandemic lockdowns, the 1-year closure of free American society. Get some water, man. Especially if you have built-in electrolytes. One of the things that people are very worried about right now is child abuse. Okay, we have a massive uptick in overdoses, and it's really cool because if you look, it's not cool. It's really cool that the report came out the way it did, because if you look at it, it has a timeline, and we're on track. We're like la 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 la. It's fading. Like our overdose rate is fading despite the opioid epidemic. The economy's good. Everything woo woo woo, and then boom, February. Coronavirus fears stoked, and because this is a report on suicide rates, or on overdoses that ended May 2020, right? So it's from the year May 2019 to May 2020, and it's a sharp, massive increase, but it has monthly breakdowns, and you can target this, and all of that increase for the entire year, which is massive, occurs in these few months. Okay? February, March, April, May. 1/3 of a year accounts for a huge increase. 18% increase in overdoses for over a year, but it's actually 1/3 of a year. Okay? So now 20% for a year. Now divide that by thirds, alright? Take it, boom, boom, boom. You're tripling your overdose rate. That's massive. That's huge. That's unbelievable. That's unconscionable. And it's the direct fault of the people who are advising ill-conceived, ill-affected lockdowns. Okay? Way too many lockdowns handled very poorly. So, child abuse is also on this radar. You know, there's the suicide, there's thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands now of businesses that will never reopen. You know, I hope you like Amazon and Walmart because you can only work for them and buy from them now. Everything else is gone. Oh, crap. Man, are you not having a revolution yet? Why? Quiet, peaceful revolution, right? Child abuse is something that they're concerned about. And child abuse is very much triggered by economic stress. That's just a thing. We know that. But it's also a factor of familial cohesion, family and social support networks. And it's really cool because there are some things that progressive liberals tend to get right on occasion. They usually take it too far and make it a little weird, but some of these things are actually occasionally correct. In this case, the idea of non-intervention to prevent child abuse. So instead of calling the police, you get helpers to come visit the family and talk things out and make it a non-confrontational, non-interventionary sort of solution. And it's working. It's been working really well where you have the trust for it to work well. And there are times and places where you don't have the trust. Okay, we were swatted at one time because of my rather loudmouthed political stances on an old social network called Google+. And you know, it's not a pleasant experience, even when you have these agencies that aren't CPS coming through. You say, well, what are my rights? What do I do? And they're pretty much still on you either play our game or we turn you into the police. You know, the next step is that. It's really nice if you have the capability of finding out their history and looking through their school records and stuff, and then showing them what their experiences are and aren't, and why they have no place on a farm being scared of livestock. Oh my God, your kids are around livestock. enough about CPS. All right, this is the good and bad part of these programs, right? They have a place, and they can function pretty well. But they're down the toilet right now because you can't go out and contact people, because you have to stay away, because you're isolating and locked down and this and that. And add the economic stress. And it's possible that we're looking at some really severe child abuse issues moving forward. However, once again with the silver lining, this may not actually be the case. And it may not be nearly as bad if it is the case. There are a couple of fundamental basic reasons. One is that because of the lockdowns, because people are doing things other than going to work and stressing about their paychecks, there's a point where you just give up. You're like, yeah, can't do it. No one's going to give me a job. There's no jobs to be had. Screw it. You don't worry about it because it's gone. Poof. It's a kind of fatalism. It's not necessarily healthy all the time, but it is lower stress in some senses. But you have more time, so people are doing more social activities, even with the isolation and lockdowns. This is one of the things doctors seem to hate so much, is that we're having all of these lockdowns, but people are just going out to the park on play dates with their kids, and it pisses the doctors off. It pisses the medicos off because, oh my God, you're supposed to stay home and stay indoors and never get fresh air and exercise. Whatever. Like, go fuck yourselves, right? It's just like, my global warming. But everything has to be disposable and trucked to your door now. Like, what the fuck ever, dude. Shut up, go away. Wrong answer, pandemic or no pandemic. So people have more social cohesion. That social influence really prevents abuse. More people around. It's not that it's something that's deep and dark and secret and hidden behind closed doors. There's some of that is. That's some of the really nasty stuff. It's just not having the social cues and moderation from interaction with other people. Okay? The solo quest for magic is what drives people insane. Okay? An isolate intelligence is not an isolated intelligence. It's an old reference for the Setians out there. Probably my most famous stolen quote, in fact. So maybe the social cohesion, the social fabric that we're building, especially in the groups that are non-compliant, maybe that's actually going to reduce child abuse problems, despite the increases in economic stressors. This is actually a very good thing. The other part of that, the other side of that silver lining, is that you have less government involvement. You have less government involvement. It's not a given that government involvement in families is a positive. There is evidence, there's academic evidence that the opposite is true, that government involvement causes family strife, and that, for example, when you have teachers forcing viewpoints on children, and this is what they do, okay, let's not beat around the bush. This is what they do. It's a decade plus, 1 1/5 decades of brainwashing, of instilling viewpoints. And when that contradicts the family values of the family, then sometimes you end up with situations where the conflict becomes between the parent and the child instead of between the parent and the ideology. And that can get bad. So that's one area of government involvement that can cause abusive situations. Another, of course, is that the government is an application of force, and it's very difficult to respond to that application of force when you're powerless. So there's a basic psychology thing that shit rolls downhill, but there's a lot of psychological thought about that. It's true. So that's another factor. So maybe we've got a silver lining here, And maybe we have an epidemic of child abuse caused by idiotic governors. We'll have to see. Stay sideways.